Remember that in the old TV when those alarms used to come up, and or even like in the radio sometimes still they do it. Like a couple weeks ago I heard it. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And there was some high wind warning, something was going on, and that's the title of today's show is a public service announcement. And that's what those are, right? The radio would come on, or the TV would come on, and they'd interrupt your we're going to interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for this important announcement. And then they tell you something that was going on in the world. And today, Dave and I are going to put a little twist on that. So before we do, hi everybody, my name is Tommy Stoffel. Welcome to Life Mastery TV. My partner, co-host, and great guy, facilitator of all this, David McLeod. I want to introduce him and say, hey, David.
Hey, good morning, Tommy. Good to see you again. I trust you had a wonderful vacation in India. I got to meet a lot of great people, connect up with family and stuff like that. And who knows, now you're just a total enlightened being, and you get to share with all your wisdom with us. Is that true?
I don't know about all the enlightenment and wisdom. I think.
Oh, yes, you do.
I did see some amazing people and did some great connecting, and at that level of connecting with other people that you and I promote and talk about here all the time. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where we're out there just doing it with real people. And the amazing thing about traveling to another country like that, a place where I, up until 8-9 years ago had never been to, not familiar with, on the other side of the planet, is that when we do connect at that deeper level, at that heart level, at that spirit level, at the level that we talk about with each other and with our audience, you realize that it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how you were brought up. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, what religion you are, what beliefs you have, what you've been through in your life. When you connect at that level with people, you just realize that that's our common bond. That's our common bringing together point. And it's just beautiful to practice that and to be aware of that and to live that and to do that with everybody that you meet. So that was the gift that I got out of the last 2 weeks in India. So thanks for asking. Yeah, good time. I hear you.
Well, you know what I think? That sure sounds like an awful lot of beautiful, enlightened wisdom to me. And the way you describe it, that's really what this is all about, isn't it? In my perspective anyway, we go through a life in whatever shape or form or path or journey it takes, and we have the opportunity to decide to learn things if we want to. And if we do choose to learn things, then what you just described, things like that, simply become a matter of fact within our own awareness. And that's what you and I do here, Tommy. We talk about our own journey and about the different things that we do. And we talked about our own struggles too, and the problems that we've had, and how those struggles have helped us become more aware and more enlightened. And I mean, that's really what this whole program is all about. We call it life mastery, but hey, come on, really, who is a life master? I think we all are, and it's all part of a journey. And so today we're going to be speaking about a very specific aspect of the kind of journey that we can take. And we're going to be talking about being of service, taking our work and not just doing it for ourselves, but also seeing how we can do it for our loved ones, for our friends, for people out beyond that, and ultimately for the whole planet.
Yeah, absolutely, David. Great opening, and thanks for encapsulating that idea of that connecting, and that's what it is all about. Because that's again what we're talking about that today. Like you said, everything we talk about in life mastery is about not being a master of anything but ourselves. And in being a master of ourselves, we come to the truth about ourselves, that we are a loving, energetic, beautiful, bright light being that is here in this human body to interact with other human beings and to basically, I don't want to oversimplify it, but to do good and to help and to bring aid and to bring benefit and not harm, to give and not take.
Exactly.
So much. And so we're playing on this public service announcement thing. But the word in there is service, as you said. And I was talking to a friend a few weeks back, actually a few months back, and someone who was struggling in life and having a hard time with things. And she says, somebody just recently said to me, and it just hit me profoundly, said, serve first. Serve first. And to encapsulate that, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. What is in the depths of what's underneath those words of enlightened wisdom that came to her from somebody else? It may just be a big answer to a lot of the struggles that we have in life and a lot of the pain that we experience emotionally, and it's part of this thing of pointing blame and then turning and taking responsibility. So serve first is what we're talking about today, and let's explore that and dive into that, David, and see where that brings us.
Yeah. And as you were talking, Tommy, one of the things that struck me is sometimes people, may have a little bit of resistance to this idea of serving or helping, thinking, well, what have I got to offer that could be of benefit to anybody else? I think, I certainly have gone through that kind of questioning process in my mind. But I remember I was at an event somewhere, and somebody who was speaking, I don't even remember who it was, but I absolutely remember the scene because it just hit me. This person was speaking and said, if you have a question about how much you can help somebody, just think of it this way. Remember when you were in school, maybe nursery school or kindergarten, and do you remember how advanced the first graders seemed to you? It just hit me. We don't have to be very far ahead of somebody in order to be able to help out. In fact, probably the closer we are to the person behind us, the more easy it is to help them out. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I am climbing up a mountain, for example, well, I can help the person right behind me, or if I happen to be in first grade and someone's back behind me in kindergarten, I can help them out. And same thing when I get up to the 12th grade or the next grade or the next grade or the next grade, I can always help the people behind me. That's the amazing thing about this. Ever since I got that image, it's just kind of locked into my body, and now I realize the importance of helping. And it isn't about, helping a lady across the street who has no intention of going across the street. Clearly, we have to be sure that what we're doing is of true benefit to the people we're helping, but they have to want it too. So there's a relationship that develops, and so that's what we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah, so many things you said there. My mind was like, oh, we can talk about this. Oh, we can talk about that. Oh, we can talk about that. The core of it. Let's start with what you started with there. Of who am I to help somebody else? I'm not worthy of helping someone. Look at me. My life's a wreck. Who do I think I am to be able to help somebody else?
Exactly.
Well, we've talked about this before too. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give somebody is your ability to listen. Mm-hmm. We don't need to be out there working at the food bank all the time or volunteering at the homeless shelter all the time. That there is an element of service that is good to do that, but boy, just listening to somebody when they're struggling, when they're having a hard time, and not being necessarily there to give them answers, but just to listen. Mm-hmm. Start with that. There's so much giving and so much love and so much presence and so much awareness and so much enlightenment in just lending somebody your ear and your heart and listening to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great gift. And I'm going to flip it around like I always do. One thing that I have always resisted in my early life was asking for help, because my teaching was I'm supposed to be self-sufficient. I'm supposed to be independent. I'm supposed to be able to do it myself. If I ask for help, it's weak, blah, 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 blah. All of those stories were bouncing around inside my head. And it wasn't until probably I was in my late 40s, early 50s that I realized that when I ask somebody for help, I am giving them a great gift. I am honoring them by saying, I trust you so much that I'm willing to ask you for this help. Now, I'm not talking about just, asking somebody to, help me fix a cabinet or something, although that's one form of asking for help. I'm talking about what Tommy was talking about here. When I'm struggling, asking someone to just hear me, to just be with me, to just listen to me. That is the most vulnerable place I can come from, and it is one of the deepest offerings I can give to anyone. And so you can imagine that I don't just pick anyone to ask for that kind of help. I choose people that I know I can trust. So it's a great gift. And then the other person has the opportunity to share with me their perspective, or just to hear what I have to say and to support me in that way. It's an amazing thing that we can do. So by asking for help, I'm actually helping somebody.
Very nice. Yeah, the asking for help. Look, we're conditioned, David, as you said, to be know-it-alls. We're trained to be know-it-alls. We go through education, we go through tests from first grade through whenever. We go through exam time. We get afraid of exams. We have nightmares that we're getting on a bus without any clothes on. All fear-based because we're supposed to be know-it-alls. And oh my God, what if I forget it all?
I haven't quite had that nightmare, Tommy, but thank you.
Or showing up and missing an exam. Like you show up at the wrong day for the test or something. Yeah, we all have these nightmares, and the school bus one, I've heard other people have similar things, but okay. So maybe I'm the only one who's ever had the nightmare, the school bus nightmare. But that just means that the structure, the educational system, and the pressures of society to know it all. You're supposed to know it all already. Don't ask. If you ask, it's a sign of weakness. If you ask, it means, oh, what? You don't know that already? You dumbass, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No such thing as we say all the time, there's no such thing as a bad question, but yet most of us are afraid to ask questions because we're afraid to look like we don't know something.
Yeah.
So that fear of asking for help is deeply entrenched in us. And I'm just hoping to bring in a little bit of a spotlight to it and saying, here's where it comes from. Will help unanchor that weight. And another piece of this too is, as human beings, we're not freaking any good at asking for help. We're not really freaking good at feeling emotions, or, you know, a lot of times the type of help we're talking about, David, is asking for help like, I'm struggling with something, I'm having a hard time with something emotionally, I'm in the dark spot, I'm slipping, I'm in pain, something's going on, and we're ashamed to ask for help, or we're afraid to ask for help. And a lot of times it's because we haven't been taught how to deal with our humanness. We haven't been taught how to deal with, in some of our language, a shadow, or the chatter in our heads, or the emotions that are mired in us. No fault of yours. There's no fault here, because as a society, as human beings, as the human race, we've never been good at emotions. My parents didn't teach me how to deal with my emotions because their parents didn't teach them. Okay, fair, good. There's no fault, there's no shame, there's no blame here in being in this body right now, in a place where you are struggling, suffering, looking for help, and afraid to ask for it. Good, okay, get over that fear. Ask for help. And like David said, you'll be doing the other person a favor as well as yourself. And now you're on the path of helping and serving and giving, just asking for help.
Yep. It's a powerful tool, and as you say, because of the way we've been brought up, the way the messages that we have received, and I'm not saying that parents have necessarily gone out of their way to say out loud with these words, do not ask for help, because if you do, it's a bad thing. You know, they usually give it in more subtle ways, and we internalize it and transform it into a message that says, oh, I better not ask for help because, or I better not step out and do this because it's going to make me look bad. They're going to judge me. This, that, the other thing. That whole thing keeps going on in our heads. And most of that stuff, I've learned for myself anyway, most of that stuff started when I was maybe 2 or 3 years old. And I go look back, I've done a lot of work. I go and look back, where did that message come from within me? And I can say, oh, I see, my mom did this and I transformed it to that. You know? Now, for a long time, I would blame my mother, but it took me the time to work through it and realize she was just doing the best she could with the tools she had at the time, and she was doing it from a place of love. And that is the best that any of us can ever do. So if you're coming from a place of love and you're offering yourself in whatever way, That is service right there in its truest, most authentic form. And that's what I hope we can get people to do here, Tommy.
Yeah. Hallelujah, brother. I usually don't say that, but that felt like a moment. Yeah. This is not going anywhere. Like, I have some notes on where we were going to go with this today, but this is not going there at all. It's going in a much more beautiful, powerful way. So I'm going to just not try to take it in the way I thought it should go. Service, youngster. Again, I'm gonna say this again in a different way, David, because it's so important for us to let go of the anchor that has us mired in me, in myself, in my self-centeredness, and my doing for me, what's in it for me. That's all, the anti-service of others. We're all serving me. And again, part of this is, this conditioning and belief system that you should know it all by now. You should have figured this out by now. Don't ask questions. Don't ask for help. It's right. That's still very self-centered, and it's a very egotistical mindset. It's a very victimized, egotistical mindset.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how else can we snap that free? Again, when I go back, I can go back to the age of 2 and 3 and write my first memories and see the situations around me that started to condition me. Miguel Ruiz talks about domestication, he calls it, is the term he puts on it. Yeah, we're domesticated, we're conditioned, we're put into a box nicely, just because that's the way society has come to learn how to behave. And it just gets passed down. So there's definitely, back to your first point, David, there's no fault put anywhere. There's no blame in my life for anybody in my life. I don't blame the school system. I don't blame my teachers. I don't blame I don't blame anybody. It's just the human race, the way I was born into it. I had no choice. Physically speaking, I was born in 1963 in White Plains, New York. There I was. Where am I? I'm in the middle of the freaking human race. 6 billion people and growing probably at that point. And all with their mindsets and conditionings and ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So forgive yourself, forgive everybody else for anything that's gone on in life so far. It's just the situation you were born into. Now, we got to get out of it, right? We got to rise above it. That's what this whole evolution is about. This whole transformation is about. It's about, okay, now I recognize that this box is what I was raised in. Now I want to get out of it. I can go work in it when I have to. I can go play in it when I need to, but I'm much bigger than that box, and it's time for me to get out. And one great way to get out is to just get out and do things for others, like giving in so many different ways and being of service.
Right. Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, part of what I realize now for me, my whole journey has been about figuring out who I really am. Because I started off with some beliefs about having to show up a certain way, having to count on other people to tell me who I am, and on and on and on and on. It's very complicated. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but as I've done more and more work, I've begun to realize who I really am. And as I get clearer and clearer and clearer on who I really am, suddenly my individual purpose, my spiritual purpose for being starts to just blossom in front of me. And so as I look at my purpose, I realize that my purpose is actually to help people. It really is all about service, even though I never really articulated it that way when it first started forming in my mind. As the more I do this, the more I realize that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help as many people as possible just become more fulfilled, more satisfied, more clear about who they really are. And some people are not going to want my help. It's that simple. And it's okay. That's not about me. That's about them. And it's okay. So as you think about your life, about who you really are, and about what your purpose is, and how you want to help people, you're going to bump up against people who are going to say, no thanks, don't want it. And that's okay. That's okay. Because the people who don't want my help might want your help. And the people who don't want your help might want Tommy's help. We're all here for the same purpose. We're all here to do the same thing. And ultimately, our goal is to make a more enlightened, more satisfied, more fulfilled public. That's what we're doing here.
That is what we're doing here. Spoken like a true Buddha. That transition out of like who I am, getting to know me, getting to know who I am, as you started with there, David, that's an important one to kind of sit at for a second, because we have to ask that question of ourselves at some point in our life. And people ask this question at different points in their lives. Some may never ask it. Some may ask it early. Some, maybe have situations around themselves that's just been their whole mantra, but it hasn't been mine. I had to hit a wall in my life before I looked around, and some people have to hit rock bottom. Some people have to have the dark night of the soul, all those things, right? Before you turn around and go, whoa, what am I doing here? Who am I? why the hell? Who can, right? But once you ask that one question, that's the greatest ask of all. Because once that ask opens you up, then it's just, now you're on the mountain. Now you're climbing the mountain. Now you're walking up the mountain, and you've got people ahead of you that can help you, and you got people behind you that need your help. And the whole thing opens up. So this discussion of service is like a doorway. Mm-hmm. It's like a doorway to the mountain, or it's a path through the rocky pass going up the mountain. It's a way to help facilitate your purpose, and find out why you're here. And you're right, David. Whenever somebody comes to their true purpose, whenever you find that, you're like, oh, that's my purpose. And you mentioned yours, you said yours. I'll tell you mine in a minute. It's all about service. It's always about how you're going to help other people, how you're going to help others. It's all about service. If your purpose gets into what's in it for me, then it's not your purpose yet, and you're not going to have any success. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. When your purpose becomes service, serve first, then that's when you're going to find that you're alive and you're doing what you came here to do, and you love doing it. And you feel that. You guys feel that when you listen to David and I talk, and we're staring at this camera and it's coming through to your eyes, and you feel it. You know we're speaking truth. We're here to serve. We're here to help. And we're just throwing out each week. We come up with something silly to try to help you with. But that's our effort. That's what we put forward. That's our public service. And that's what we're doing right now. And when you find that in yourself, then then you see the joy of life. Then you see life you begin to marvel in life. There's still anchors that are going to try to hold you back into the old, what's in it for me. But the more you break those free, and the higher you climb the mountain, the better it gets. And the service is a doorway to that. Find your purpose, find what you're here to help with, and work on that. Focus on that.
Yeah, the subject of what's in it for me, I just want to come back to that a little bit, because there's a lot of people motivated by that, and there's two little aspects that I want to bring up. First, when I look at what's in it for me, and I focus on my purpose from an ego perspective, I may actually experience certain amounts of success. I may actually get the trappings that everybody approves of, and so I may have some sense of fulfillment. But I think that for most people who are just doing it to fulfill their ego needs, probably aren't truly fulfilled at all. Even though they may say they are. I think that the deeper truth is, wow, there's just something missing in my life. There's a hole in my life, and I've got to figure out how to fill it. Having all this money, having all these cars, all these homes, all these jewels, all this stuff, it's great and it's fun to play with, but it really isn't helping me. So, that's one piece that I want to bring. The second piece is, you and I have talked about this many times, Tommy, and I know we talk about it really all the time. In a very real sense, we are all one. So whatever I do or to or for myself, in a way, I'm doing to or for others, for everyone else, actually. So the way I treat myself is just a reflection of how I treat everybody else. The way I treat other people is a reflection of how I treat myself. Really, what I think Tommy is trying to say is we need to get out of this ego, move ourselves down into our heart, and then from that place, from the heart and soul, ask, who am I? Who am I really? I mean, I'm not this story in my head. I'm not all these roles I have. I'm not the beliefs or the thoughts I have. I am something bigger and more amazing beyond that. And for me personally, I have a phrase that really resonates for me, and I think it resonates for a lot of people, and that is, I am a magnificent, divine, spiritual being of light and love who happens to be sharing a human experience with all of you other amazing folks. That's how I look at it. So, you know, I that's what I say, and my purpose is tied in with that being, not the ego mind that's chattering away in my head.
Thanks for leading me back. That was beautiful, David. That was, sometimes I just want to pause after you're done. I'm like, let that soak in. But I'm not the chatter in my head. That's my purpose. Because for a large part of my life, I was the chatter in my head, and that chatter in my head was literally driving me crazy. And my purpose now is to bring peace. I'm a peace bringer. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean I go out there and stop wars on the grand scale. I bring peace to people inside themselves. I help people find their heart, find their center by calming the noise in their head, by helping them get out of their ego, by shrinking it, by chilling it down, by quieting it down, finding peace in your mind. Then your heart will express itself. Then your being will express itself. The human will calm down, and the being aspect of you will shine through. That loving being of light. Yeah, right. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and this human experience comes with this nutty rat race mind. And so, okay, I was born into it. I was conditioned. I was domesticated. Now it's time to dissolve that and come back to why I'm really here. And when you find that doorway, then that's when you'll be able to give. And when you give, that's when you're going to be the most fulfilled. That's when you're going to enjoy life the most. When you're in that place of serving, of giving, of helping, doing what you came here to do.
Yeah, that's really nice, Tommy. I like that, the idea of giving, because I've heard it said, love is for giveness. I love that. I mean, it's just a beautiful little soundbite that fits into my head. And the truth of the matter is, the more I give of my love, the more love I have to give. And that's just an amazing consequence. There is no limit to how much love you can give. And if you are serving from a place of love, if you are giving your love, then you are benefiting yourself and the whole world, everyone around you. You're benefiting the whole universe as far as I can see. And I can see, because I'm that big, I can see the whole bloody universe. You didn't know that, but that's a new piece of truth that I'm sharing now, and I do it without ego.
Let's roll that ball. Let's the snowball is rolling. Let's make it a little bit bigger to realize what you're saying here, because we think when we got to take care of ourselves. It's all about me. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Right? All the fingers pointing this way. I got to take. I got to have all that stuff. And it's counter trained. I'm not going to say counterintuitive, but it's counter trained in our brain that if we take our focus off ourselves and give to others, then we're gonna fall down and fail, and we're not going to be able to take care of ourselves. But what you're saying, David, and it's so true, is that the more we give, the more we get. So really, when you do give without condition, without expectation of return, without needing thanks or appreciation or anything back, and you just give unconditionally, that love that you're expressing, you will find the truth in the answer, that it comes back manyfold. It comes back in great waves. And so in the end, you do get more. You do get what you give. The Beatles, I'll end with this one. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. It's energy, it's karma. You give it, it comes back to you, but you can't expect it, and you can't do it with the mindset of what's in it for me. You just do it out of love, out of giving, out of caring, out of being here to help, which you all are. So give the best you can. Find some way this week to help others, to lend a hand, to lend an ear, the easiest thing we can do, and see how that feels and see how that works for you.
Yeah. Listen, I can't end this without just patting ourselves on the back here, because Joanne says here, you guys are so great. Thank you for sharing such awesome things week after week. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, that just touches my heart. And this is exactly what we're talking about here. You know, we do our best, Tommy, to give as much as we can. And just having words like that come back to me just reminds me that it's all worthwhile. Everything that we do has a purpose and has an impact. So anybody who's watching this can do the same thing. You can go out and you can serve from your heart without any need for any kind of return, and you will get it back in ways that you can't possibly imagine.
That's karma, baby. All right. David, thanks for opening up today. Lovely, lovely talk, man. Thanks so much for your presence and what comes through, the wisdom that comes through. Thanks.
Well, you're welcome. So next week, Tommy, we got a whole new idea we're approaching here, and I don't want to give people too much here. I want to kind of leave them with a question mark in their head, like, what are these guys really going to talk about? And so our title for next week is simply called The Lemon Factor. I'm just going to leave that with you. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.